guest introduction, it looks like we have in the guest area, we have Councillor Afroz Khan and also Claire. I don't have the last name.
Russell.
Okay. And is that just those two? Yep.
Correct.
Okay. Wasn't sure if Councillor Barry Connell was going to try to be here or not, because there is an item on this agenda for him to speak to, but he might just be busy.
It's possible folks will pop in later. We're not really sure.
Yeah, and I didn't get a confirmation from him anyway, so that's fine. Okay, so I'm actually looking. I got an iPad so I can look at the agenda now while I'm on the meet on the Zoom. Hear from other members and public comment then. Okay. Oh, approve the meeting minutes. Sorry, I missed that.
So do we want to, we do have attendance and guest introduction. So, and we have members and public comment as two separate, which I guess maybe we should potentially consider reworking that order for future meetings. But Andy, how do we go about, greeting Councillor Khan and our guest, Ms. Russell?
So I'm just going to allow both of them to speak. I defer to you on who do you want to speak or how you want to address comments and so forth. But both have been allowed to unmute if they'd like.
Okay, great. Welcome, both of you.
Good evening. My name is Paul Balloon, and I'm married to Claire Russell.
Okay. Hi, Paul.
Okay.
That
Hi, Paul.
explains the name. Thank you.
And we are at 20 Fair Street, and third on your agenda item.
Oh, great. Okay, good. Thank you.
And hi, should I raise my hand?
No, you're fine. Hi.
Hi, it's Afroz Khan. I'm actually on the agenda, so I could just wait till then, if that's okay. There's, I believe, items 3 and 4 I was going to speak to.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us to both.
Yes, thank you.
So should we start right away with Andy Egmont with the ADA coordinator update?
If she's got anything for us, sure.
Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I don't have any significant updates. I did, after seeing the agenda, try to do a little bit of a deep dive into ADA law around the public meetings, and like, to my surprise, it was not easy to come across information that has been. I feel like the pandemic has really allowed something to happen out of what's been seen as necessity. So that is something I'm happy to keep looking into. I didn't have a chance to actually call and get information. I just kind of tried to do a search and didn't get a lot. But like I said, I'm happy to look into anything as things come up. I'm going to stay on for a while. I can't stay for the whole meeting, but if there's anything you need from me, please let me know after the meeting. I'm happy to do that.
Okay. That sounds good.
Great, thank you. So Jenny, item number 2 is MOD ADA grant update.
Yep, so quick just on that is that I actually spoke with Jeff Dugan from the MOD, and he looked up our status, and yeah, we did not win the grant. We were not awarded the grant. So there's the update on that. We will just keep trying. He said to always keep trying.
Jenny, did he give you a sense of any rationale or any criteria that we did not meet, or did he just say that it was not awarded?
No, really, but he just said that, you know, it's very competitive and to just keep trying. You know, that he didn't really have much else than that. So I think we just need to really try to work with the city on a project that they're already doing. You know, there needs to be better matching funds, and it needs to be something that's going to really benefit a lot of people.
Right. Okay.
So that.
Okay.
Hello, everyone.
Oh, hi,
Hello,
Lisa. Is that you?
Yes,
Hi, Lisa.
I couldn't get into Zoom.
Oh.
Oh. Okay, well, I'm glad we hear you at least, and we know that you're there and that you were able to join us.
I've got to have Andy send me a new thing because there's something, I don't know. It's very hard to keep going back and finding the old thing.
This is Andy. I could speak to that. I will resend the link to you right now if you look for an email from Zoom. But I would also know, usually what I would recommend is that people just copy and paste the information into your calendars. So because the Zoom links are the same for every board meeting all the time. So I would suggest if you think you might have difficulty finding the email, just save it to your calendar or some other place that's convenient.
Just to say, it's a little bit of a problem because, we set the dates changed. And then, it would be the best thing would be if it could somehow be pasted into the meeting with the agenda. That would be so helpful.
Everybody's link is personalized as panelists. So really the only option other than searching for that email is literally to cut and paste it and to put it in some sort of an online calendar, either Outlook or Google.
Yeah.
I don't know about iPhone users because I don't know Apple products, but I think that's the only way to really keep continually able to find it without searching. Sorry.
No problem.
You are able to set recurring meetings because our meetings generally don't change. So if you use an online calendar, you can set it once to Outlook, like for today on Thursday, paste the link in and then set it to be that second Thursday of every month, and it will do that for you automatically.
Okay, thank you.
So we have.
Hello. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Hi, Lise. And we see your lovely screenshot without your mouth moving.
Yeah, I finally got in.
Oh, great!
But I didn't do anything. It took 5 minutes to come up.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, we're good. Yes.
This isn't about me.
So we have the driveway project at 20 Fair Street needing advocacy. So I will defer to Jenny and our guest, Mr. Bloom. Jenny, do you want to start with an overview or? So, Jenny, I think oh, no. Okay, sorry. You're good.
Am I?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. I messed up my phone for a minute, so I had to get back in, but you can hear me. Okay. So actually, Sean reached out to me on this one. It's a project on Fair Street where a couple tore down their porch room to put in a parking space, a double parking space for better ease of access. And they were permitted to do all that, but now that they're at the stage where the driveway is ready and the sort of area for the sidewalk that needs to be cut into would mean that there would be a loss of parking on the street, and the council president is not in favor of that happening. He's also the ward councilor for that location. So from what I understand, they're running into some challenges, but we can hear more specifically from Paul if you'd like to bring us all up to speed, Paul.
Sure. We applied for changes through the planning board and historical council when we moved in 2.5 years ago, and were granted both. And the planning board allowed us to plan for a driveway and a curb cut, which was allowed in their meeting minutes and our permits. We did not do the necessary renovations until this summer, and then applied for the curb cut at 20 Fair Street. We removed an outbuilding or a sun porch, and we're told that everything was okay. The city put up a notice and a street notice, and the butters were informed and nobody objected. Apparently, Mr. Funari, the DPS leader, said that he had no problem with it, but Mr. Jared Eigerman, the ward counselor, said that he opposed it, and his reasoning was that we would lose a parking space on Fair Street, even though we would take one car off the street by making a driveway. We thought that was unfair. He told us that, or he told Funari, and we were informed that there was a new law or ordinance that came into being in October, although we had applied once 2.5 years ago, and secondly, in the summer of this year, that was denied. I myself have medical needs. I've had 2 heart attacks, and I have a permanent handicap sticker for orthopedic problems, but that didn't seem to cut any mustard with them. So we're appealing to you folks, and we think that we have met all proper requirements for this, but it's just one person, Mr. Augerman, who has put his foot down and won't allow us.
Mr. Bloom, this is Kristen Farrell. I'm the secretary. Andy has shared a photo on the screen with us, and it looks like a white home with a yellow front door. Is the outbuilding that you speak of that little bump out that is behind a tree right there?
Yeah, that no longer exists.
Okay, so basically there's a soft top car that might look like a convertible. So the parking space would be that space and then one where that other little porch structure was. Is that right?
Correct. On the
okay.
south side of the house.
So is the existing space there your neighbors or yours?
The existing space is the neighbors with a driveway and a brick path leading to our backyard and a little doorway.
And do you know which ordinance Councilor Eigerman was referring to?
No, but my wife sent the whole timeline to Sean.
Andy Port, do you know what ordinance he's referring to that would prevent someone from doing something they already received approval on?
Yeah, just to be clear, I think there's a distinction to be made between what the planning board or ZBA approves on private property versus the infrastructure improvements that are changed on public property, like the sidewalk or the street. So the Department of Public Services needs to review and approve those things, and there are city ordinances that deal with, the sidewalk construction or with the driveways and where openings can happen and things like that. So there are some city ordinances. I'm not familiar with off the top of my head the particular area of concern that Councilor Argument have. I guess the concern or confusion that I would have, just because I look at these site plan issues on a regular basis, and I remember vaguely this application. I'm just wondering if the argument here to not allow the extension of that curb cut there is perhaps for Councilor Argument one of two things. You pointed out, I think, that you do take a car off the street. And I think that the additional extension needed for that driveway at that point would really be more like 10 feet than 20 feet. 20 feet.
Yeah, it's not even full.
20
right,
feet.
That was going to be my comment too. It's like 2 cement sidewalk blocks.
Yeah, to 10 feet is the width of a car spot typically, and 20 feet is the length, or maybe sometimes a variation of that, but that's kind of your typical length. So I guess I was confused if the concern is that it might impact on-street parking. You're really only removing 10 feet along the sidewalk there or along the curb line, meaning you're only impacting half a car space, but you're actually allowing one more car for that particular existing use to be off the street at that point. So you're really adding a car for only 10 feet of interruption of the curb line. It might be the other concern that Councilor Eigenman may have, and I'm not sure if that has to do with it, is he might not like the lengthening or extension of one curb cut for two lots combined like that. He may not think that's beneficial for some reason design-wise, but I'm not sure you know, what Councilor Eigenman's concerns. I'd have to defer to him on that. But those are the two things that come to mind looking at this. It's not clear to me if there is actually a on-street space lost from this. In fact, it looks like it might be sort of solving a space issue, but that is a decision that should be made by other officials, not necessarily myself. So.
And Mr. Bloom, your argument is that if you are able to pull into this space, it will make your accessibility to your own home safer, easier?
Well, obviously for me, for my concerns and my problem, parking around the corner is not ideal. So during the summertime and the spring, when all the stores are open, it's very difficult to park on this block of Fair Street.
Right, so it guarantees you a spot so that you don't have to walk.
Yeah, but basically for the proximity to downtown and Market Square it makes this an ideal place to park for shoppers. It doesn't make it an ideal place for residents, and it doesn't make it ideal for residents with handicap problems.
So
I would oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'd like to add one more thing. During the last 2 days, my car and my neighbor's car were both hit in the snow here. Both of them had mirror damages by people kind of weaving up and down Fair Street. So that I don't have that in writing, but it's true.
So just to clarify, your residence right now does not have any off-street parking connected to it?
Correct.
At all. Okay. So the car that we're looking at belongs to the neighbor, I see. I
have a question.
Okay.
At any point did you apply to the city or appeal to the city to just put in a handicapped parking space out front of your home?
Pardon me, I didn't quite hear that.
Did you guys try to apply or appeal to the city for a handicapped parking spot designated?
No, we didn't, because we were relying on the original permitting saying that we could apply for a curb cut when we were ready.
Right.
And so we didn't think it was necessary to apply for a handicap spot.
Was it indicated to you at the time of the original permitting that it may not be approved for the curb cut? I'm a little confused at the process.
No, there was no indication that there was going to be an approval process. In fact, nobody has ever heard of anybody that's been denied a curb cut.
Right.
We had Mark Griffin from the Finner law firm. He had never heard of anything like that. And like I said, the DPS chairman of Finari, said there was no problem with it at all.
So Andy, this is Kristen. If Mr. Finari has approved it within DPS, is it the purview of the city council ward city councilor to be able to just say no? Or I guess I'm confused about that potential new ordinance with the October thing.
I'd have to, again, I'd have to take a look at the ordinance and the regulations to verify whether or not there's any reason for rejecting it. But if the DPS is approved and it meets all the regulations, there's no provision or protocol by which, say one councilor or one person could change that outcome per se. There might be a concern that was raised there, but I think, generally speaking, that's the reason why we have city ordinances and regulations for consistency in their application. So.
Well, my understanding was that there was no appeal for this, and I don't believe that that's the case with any city ordinance.
Right. That's what I was going to say. I think that I think that there are a few steps that should be taken before the commission necessarily has to get involved. As the ADA coordinator for the city, I would be happy to work with you on this and with Director Port to just make sure that this has gone through the right channels. I can't speak to what the ordinance is because I'm not sure, but when Jenny asked about the handicap spots, we have had residents get handicap spots in front of their home to guarantee them parking. And so to me, I don't see how this is any different if it guarantees you parking on your own property so that you're not left to walk with your conditions. So
right. I would also argue that as much as on-street parking for non-residents is valuable and shouldn't necessarily be impacted, I would argue that residents' needs should be put somewhat as a higher priority than worrying about taking one space or half a space off the on-street parking for potential visitors.
Well, I completely agree with you. We are.
Again, we don't necessarily have any authority, so to speak, but I do agree with Andrea that I think maybe helping to make sure that you've gone through all the proper channels would be what we can offer.
Yeah, so Mr. Bloom, can we follow up? I'm happy to speak with you and go through those channels to make sure that the city is doing the right thing. And then obviously if it doesn't go, if there isn't a natural process for this to go through, I think at that point the commission would be in a better place to advocate for you.
Right. We welcome all the help we can get.
Great.
Okay.
I think Lisa just was about to say something. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
May I just say, I'd like to add one thing to what my husband has said so far.
Sure, please do.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, I can't really explain how there's been, this developed, but when we were quite frankly stunned when it was denied, the permit was denied. So one of the concerns Councilor Eigenman had expressed was that we would lose a parking space in front of the house if we got the curb cut. But in point of fact, I have actually gone out, not only have I measured, but we put both of our cars out there assuming that the curb cut was there, and there are still 2 parking spaces. So I don't know whether it was never, I'm not sure how that developed, that there was this impression or understanding that they were going to lose a parking space at all. I actually think they gain a parking space by us having 1 car off the street. But, certainly, I'm not sure how that misunderstanding occurred, but we have included pictures in what we sent that show that the 2 cars are parked there, and even with the curb cut and the driveway there's still ample room for 2 very large cars to be parked in front of our house.
Can I'm trying to think the best way for us to follow up tomorrow would be by, are you comfortable sharing your phone number with me so that I can follow up with you?
Okay. Yeah, of course.
Or would you like to email me directly?
Well, I think Sean has the timeline, and that has phone numbers and email address.
Oh, okay. Sean, can you forward that to me? Excellent. Thank you. Okay, then I will follow up with you.
I'll be happy to give you those right now.
No, I'll get the email. That will give me a little more information. I might be able to do a little investigating in the morning before I reach out.
Great. We'll look forward to it.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom and Ms. Russell. Thanks for your information, and we'll hope we can help get you some sort of resolution one way or the other.
That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I was just going to add that I have a handicapped space outside my house.
Right.
On street though, Lisa, right?
That's right.
Well, in fairness though, that doesn't necessarily guarantee you that space as it would if it were your own driveway. Anyone with a placard can pull in front of your house and park in that space, even if they're just going to the coffee shop.
My objection to that as well.
Right. So I think that's certainly an option if there were no other options, but if a resident has property space that meets criteria with DPS and regulations that were previously permitted, it would seem to me that it would make more sense to have.
Yes, I agree.
It doesn't seem right, and to go as far as to have remove part of your home because you were approved for it and then not be approved is. We will definitely look into it.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
We'll be happy to send you anything that you think would be helpful in the way of documentation.
Okay, I'll be in touch and we can do that. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
So if we've wrapped that one up, next on the agenda is number 4, concerns about public Zoom meetings for the hearing impaired, and Councillor Afroz Khan.
Yeah, thank you for having this on the agenda. The City Council had a retreat last month, and one of the things that came up was how, now that we're using Zoom, how could we make sure that we're accessible to all residents and they can be able to understand what's going on. And so typically we would have, I believe it's Port Media covers NCM Hub, and they would, I think, televise. And so if people have where they could set closed captioning and be able to watch. I was just wondering if folks had any ideas here, or is this something that has come up before now that we've moved entirely to Zoom? I do want to add that once something's available though on YouTube, which is what happens with the NCM Hub, I guess when they archive our meetings, you could turn on closed captioning at that moment. But I was wondering during live Zoom meetings if that's been something that has been brought to your group before.
It hasn't been brought up yet, but my first thought would be that, if the city really wanted to make those meetings acceptable to all the people viewing for the hearing impaired prior to their release on YouTube, then they would have to hire a sign language interpreter to be on the screen. That would be
and I believe in the city guidelines is that if someone wants to request that, part of having public meetings posted 48 hours in advance, give somebody the opportunity to ask for that translator or for a hearing aid or other accommodations. Councillor Khan, when I was looking, I did see that Zoom has a closed caption ability within it. I don't know how it's used. It was one of the things I wasn't able to look into much farther, but there is something about enabling closed caption with a live stream from Zoom. So I don't know if that's an option.
Right. So if I may, I actually am a certified sign language interpreter by profession. And Zoom does have that feature, as well as several other platforms. Google Meet can turn on automated captions. So it will self-caption. Brian also is a transcriber, and I believe Karen has some background in this area as well. So we have sort of three of us here, but for the Zoom, my understanding of the Zoom captioning is someone would need to be assigned to actually caption the meetings. And again, I think that would be by request. It's certainly not a complex, it's a matter of assigning someone that permission in the settings, and then they would be captioned within the meeting. As far as requesting an interpreter, I mean, I have lived in Newburyport for over 20 years, and I've never heard of public meetings being requested to be interpreted, but that doesn't mean that they haven't been. I
would certainly wonder if it's because people just don't know that that's even a possibility.
Maybe that could be.
I mean, I'm sure it's advertised. We didn't even know. You know.
I have you know, a hearing know about, you know, ways and becoming increasingly more knowledgeable about the captioning ability of various platforms. And, you know, I've captioned on Zoom before, on, you know, I consider it part of my duties of this committee. If we ever have that request, I have no problem with it. But as far as a broader view of the city, for a Zoom platform, it would be contracting with some type of you know, company that would be on call, that would arrange for a transcriber to be available.
Yeah, that's part of the role of ADA. I have a list of all the companies that we're supposed to use when we have an accommodation requested. I do think that it's not kind of broadcasted, even just if something on the public meeting site said, if you need accommodations, this is how you get them, might be something. I mean, that's like a little thing to add that would make a really big difference, right? Like, so when people went and saw what the public meeting is, I don't know that we have anything that says something like that, but because people are allowed to ask for it, and we do have the means to provide it. But I agree. I like to assume that people know their rights, but obviously not everyone does. But that might be something for the city to think about, is with public notice that there's just a, you know, one sentence that says how to request any accommodations.
I mean, I would think that would also be something that we could add to our particular webpage in the city website, but I don't know that it would be necessarily that helpful there unless someone specifically visited our website. If you were going to attend a public meeting, you would see the calendar. So I think, Andrea, you're right that that would make more sense. Councillor Khan, is it your sense that that this is just like a global awareness issue that we want to address to make sure that people know that they are able to request? Or
yeah, I would say exactly. There was not a specific request that came to me, but I do appreciate this conversation. And I think it's really the awareness. Like, I myself did not realize one could request. So I think maybe just having something on our, I see two items actually. One is having that more recognized as residents on the webpage, that residents could request that service. But I also think, and I believe if Zoom could do like transcribe as the meeting's happening. I know I've seen it, like there's a bar on the right where I think I've seen this for school committee, but I wonder if I've seen it after the meeting's been posted and I'm watching the recording. So I mean, I could look into that unless someone knows that now, if it could happen live. I just didn't know if you guys already had that intelligence, or should I just probe into
Ryan,
it?
do you want to address?
This is Andy. Just from the Zoom work that I've done over the last year because of the pandemic, my recollection is there's a setting, I think, in Zoom that can help to transcribe, you know, essentially a transcription of what the dialogue was during a meeting, with the, you know, associated errors that might happen from something done electronically or by a computer. But I think that's that isn't a something done during the meeting. It's something that's converted afterwards, is my recollection. So I could be mistaken, but that's what I've seen.
Brian,
I would agree with that. I know about I know a bit about Zoom, and I don't believe there is immediate transcription. I happen to use a talk to text because I can't type very well anymore. And even at that, voice to text is not particularly, it needs to get a lot better. Let's put it that way.
Lisa,
I don't think it's there yet.
I can identify with that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. I mean, I didn't have much more. I think this discussion was good. And I think maybe I will even reach out to our city clerk about how we could put on our webpage, as well as Matt Kukin, in terms of making it more prevalent for people who want to request. Then I could try to do that part. Yeah, so I really appreciate this.
As far as the deaf community's awareness, I do think in general, deaf people are well-versed in, you know, knowing how to request an interpreter from entities, at least in my experience. I will also say that in general, it is, if you were looking to secure a live interpreter rather than a captioning situation, in general, you cannot, it's very rare to get an interpreter with less than 2 weeks notice in advance of a meeting. So it's pretty common practice for people to, you know, for meetings that are posted to say, if you would like a reasonable accommodation and to request an interpreter, please do so within 14 days, you know, or at least 14 days in advance of the meeting. That would just be for actually having a live interpreter here in the Zoom in a separate bubble. But I do think Google Meet is the only one that will actually live caption, and it is computer generated. So it doesn't.
Kristen?
Quite good, actually. The
Kristen?
Google Meet.
Sorry, Lisa, yep.
Yeah. Are any of these meetings or Zoom meetings TTY capable?
Nobody uses a TTY anymore. So that would be the other piece of the puzzle. A person wanting to dial into a Zoom could use the what is known as VRS. It's a video relay service interpreter. There are several companies that offer that service. Sorensen is the biggest, and Purple is another. And basically you would dial into the deaf person would connect into a live interpreter on a screen via their direct video phone like Skype. And then that interpreter would potentially be able to connect. In general, it's through the phone though. So I'm not sure how they would be able to access a Zoom unless they just dialed in by phone, by the Zoom phone number and didn't use the video capability. So it would be possible to do that. Their FCC controls all of those rules and regulations. So I'm not totally familiar with that, but nobody uses TTYs anymore. I shouldn't say nobody. It is very, very uncommon for people to use TTYs. And when entities and businesses and organizations say like, oh, for TTY, you know, deaf people just roll their eyes and go, who even has one? I had one on my desk for years and I literally had about a 2-inch thick layer of dust when I took it off my desk and finally recycled the thing. So I don't know that it would be anything that anyone would try to access via TTY. It would be more video remote or video relay service interpreting.
I always learn something.
We all do, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, then,
well, thank you. I appreciate this. And Jenny, I'm sorry. I thought I asked for 209 Water Street, but I don't see it on the agenda. So I will save that.
There was another one that I was forgetting and we didn't get to touch base. So go ahead and bring that up because I meant to have it on here.
Yeah, but I don't know if I can, but maybe I would have done it in public comment. And if you guys can, do you mind waiving your rules to let me?
No, that would be fine.
Quick, yeah,
sure.
We're so official in the city council, so my apologies for being so, what do you have to do?
We're not.
No, just
we try, but you know, we're okay.
Well, no, I know Andy's aware of this too, but Andy Port, that is, in terms of the Joppa parking, the whole Joppa landing area, in terms of the parking by the boat ramp, you know, there was some concerns that a resident brought up to me that the handicap parking lines were removed and they're still not repainted. And it's the property owner, 209 Water Street, had promised to the Parks Commission that he was going to have it repainted according to the city standards, but probably not till spring. And, you know, it's just one of those things where I feel like it's tough because it's still space that's used even before spring happens. And I didn't know if you guys were aware of that. And it is a concern that a handicapped resident did bring up to me. And it's been something that they've been kind of aggrieved about. And I kind of agree. So I was asking if that is a situation, how do you respond? Or is there some kind of oversight that needs to be done? If lines are removed, do they need to come before this commission here? What's the protocol?
Counselor, are you saying that it's a private, I'm sorry, I was confused. Did you say that a citizen complained or that a citizen is the one who said they would repaint the lines? Who's the they that you're expecting?
So there's two citizens. One is the citizen that complained, and one is the citizen who's the resident next to the parking area. That's a city park that actually took it upon themselves to excavate and resurface. It's right adjacent to their property, and this the Joppa parking lot and the parking spaces, actually this resident drives over them to get to their parking spot. So it's actually a very strange configuration, and not sure why it got approved because there's no easement to drive over those parking spots to get to someone's driveway. So it's a real strange situation in general. But
Andy, can I just interject? Just my understanding with talking with Jennifer Blanchet was just for clarification was that when the project was approved, the homework was approved. They had proposed, I guess, a garage element or structure there with a door so they could take boats out to Joppa, and then somehow, however it ended up happening, sort of converted that into parking for vehicles and going in and out. And so it might not have been represented originally in the same format as it is being used today.
I think it is fair to say, though, that if a private citizen has taken away a handicap parking spot, that is completely not okay. I can't imagine that there's any way that we can say, oh yeah, you can just hold off on that. That is used year round.
Is the space in the spaces that are actually facing the water, or is it an on-street space that was lined specifically for?
It's the space, the way the configuration is, it's the spaces that face the water.
Okay.
So there's the boat ramp, and then there's some spaces. If you're looking at the boat ramp at the river, there's two spaces, or actually three, sorry, on the right. And then there's, I think, 5 on the left. Andy might know the exact number.
Can you let me share my screen? I pulled a picture up from Google Maps.
Obviously it's a winter issue, but could we reach out to DPS to see if we could just get a temporary, I know it's not aesthetically the most pleasing thing to do, but if we got a temporary handicap parking sign, sometimes they're mounted in like a bucket of cement on a pole. And if we, that wouldn't be ideal because it would get plowed over, but there has to be a way without actually physically painting the pavement in the snow, that the lines could be replaced.
Yeah, I think I can talk to DPW and the Parks Department and say we need to have something there like signifying it, but we can't let this household off for actually repainting those lines.
Right.
Yep. And the handicap sign is gone as well, which shows where the handicap, like the standing sign. I mean. So
right. I wonder where that would have gone. Like, where would that go?
Do we know where the spot is supposed to be? The handicap spot? Is it the one closest?
Yeah, it's so you could see their vehicle there, that the truck. So it's where the black SUV is.
SUV, okay.
There, because what you do is you have the handicap spot, and then next to it you have the kind of like the cross marked area, so that if anyone has a wheelchair access and for vans to let people out. I think that is what you see the space there. So, but that's, I think where the black SUV is where the handicap spot was before.
Okay.
I mean, I think at the very least we would need DPS to just replace the sign for first off, for immediate access and use, so that it's designated as a handicap parking space, but then also correct to make sure that the homeowner doesn't lose sight of the fact that they are obligated to restore the lines to the satisfaction.
It's unfortunate because obviously this would be a very hard time to repaint anything. And it may take a while to be able to have the roads clear enough to do that. But I think that definitely even, I think I can make a call as soon as I get off and try to have a sign put out there within the next few days. I will do that.
Great.
But I'm actually looking at the clock and I have to run.
Yes, sorry. Thank you. I will get out then. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is 5:50.
All right. I think
And if we just, I'm referring back to the agenda. We have an upcoming MOD webinar about outdoor dining, or sorry, Jenny, is that your?
Yeah, I'll just mention it real quick. So the next, there's a webinar. I think you said it was in April. I know Lisa signed up, and it's MOD, and what the topic of the conversation is going to be outdoor seating, which I would really like to get as many people, like the key people in the city, to maybe try to attend that meeting, that webinar, because there needs to be an understanding of what's expected. So at the very least, I'd like some of us to attend, but I was trying to think of who else I should send the email to suggest that they maybe, listen in for a little bit of forward thought.
Okay, I think maybe we can also, it might be good to find out if it's going to be recorded and reposted also, which would be helpful just for us to use for future information.
Yep, and it probably will.
I would try to get there if I know what it is.
Yep.
Jenny, did you email that around to us?
I did.
Okay, I think I saw it, yes.
And call into that. I think it would be worth our while to get some idea of what the state's talking about with this stuff, so we have a little more ammunition when we actually have to deal with the seating in downtown, which is always a problem. So we've got
I signed up to go to that. I thought this was just our city.
I'm sorry, say it again, Lisa.
This is not Newburyport, it's a broader thing.
Yes, MOD, it's statewide. It's a state-sponsored webinar.
Yeah, okay, I signed up for that.
Awesome.
Yeah, I need to do the same. But I'm, I was trying to think of who else in the city, maybe Matt Coogan might be someone that should listen in. I was trying to think of who would be a good idea. Maybe someone on the licensing permitting committee from the city council, maybe. So that's something to think about, who we might want to spread the word to, that it, could be worth getting some people from the city to call in as well. But we have a few months to reach out, for me to send that out to more people. So we'll just quickly move on from that.
So let's jump ahead to the post office box at the corner of Green and Pleasant, and then go back to the handicap parking, because I have a short report about that. But the Green Street and Pleasant Street missing mailbox, which I cry every time I go down Green Street, I'll be honest.
So what's happening with that is I got a call from Councillor Connell about it. He's really concerned because it's, a lot of people with mobility issues use that mailbox, and people that can't get out of their cars and things like that.
Yes.
He's already heard from a lot of constituents about it in that regard, and ironically, I had a conversation with a resident on another matter that same day, but he brought up this same thing, and he was lamenting that that was the one that he always used because he has trouble getting out of his car now and moving about too much. So he's really put out by it, and it definitely seems to be affecting people. And it was posted about on the Newburyport Commons page, and it's got close to 100 comments. People are really...
So I think my understanding of this situation is that the Postmaster General decides where the mailboxes go. I'm not clear on the fact that I understand that it needed to be replaced because it was the pull down, and now it has to be the 1-inch opening with the little finger things to prevent theft and tampering. But I wasn't clear on why they elected not to take the new style of box and put it back where it was. So maybe that would be something that we could ask Andrea to follow up on, or one of us, if able, could follow up.
I'll finish up what I was saying too, is that, so what Barry plans on doing is writing a letter that he would like all the counselors to sign. And I think he would also like a letter from us in support of that measure, is I think what he was getting at.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know why it wouldn't be, you know, prudent to put the new style mailbox back in that same spot, but I'm not sure why that would be an issue.
Well, I guess Barry, you know, basically the answer he got from the postmaster was that, you know, they just didn't want to deal with the vandalism anymore, and it's up to the postmaster's discretion. It's his decision. And I don't think he's gotten the angle of how it's impacting people with accessibility issues. So I think that's where Councillor Connell is looking to maybe bring up that and raise that awareness and advocate to have it brought back because of that. So,
okay. Do you want me to draft something, Jenny? Or do you want us to just sign on to something that he creates?
If you want to draft something, I think that would be fantastic. Just our perspective on, you know, who it benefits and how it benefits them, and how many, you know, that many people have been reaching out with concern that they can't access dropping off anymore.
Okay.
Something to that effect. Okay, so yeah, there's that.
Okay, so the last item on our agenda is the subcommittee need for handicap parking issues and misuse and violations. So I spent a fair amount of time drafting some questions for parking clerk after our last meeting, and unfortunately we've played several rounds of phone tag and email tag, and I feel like it warrants a conversation more than going back and forth by email. So I don't have a lot to report, at least in the as far as information, but we also are working to be sure that Karen is going to attend the TSAC meetings, Traffic Safety Advisory Council. So that kind of ties into the parking and some issues potentially. And I think that's about all that I have. But Richard Jones and I are attempting to have a conversation, and he knows that we're working on this, and he knows some of the background rationale for what the data that we've been gathering and attempting to gather. So if anyone's able to jump in on that as a subcommittee, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so go ahead. Sorry.
No, Sean here. I'd be more than happy to be part of that.
That would be great.
Okay.
Excellent.
I was going to say, was asked if anybody wants to, you know, volunteer to be a part of this, so we can get prepared to make a request to the city council to raise the fine. We just need to get our ducks in a row and have the data together and have answers for their questions as to why we should jump to a $300 fine. I think we can answer that question. We just have to have it be unequivocal.
Mm-hmm. I think we have plenty of data at this point too. We just have to get it organized and sort of clarify some other points within parking enforcement, and that'll be great.
Oh, absolutely. All right, well, there's just...
So we did not approve our previous meeting minutes. Did everyone get the email that I sent, I believe there were 3 bundles of minutes, and I did not hear from anyone with corrections or comments.
Fine. So I'm going to motion to approve those sets.
I second.
All in favor?
Great.
Aye.
Okay, minutes approved.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Any new business? We have 2 minutes.
I have 2 minutes, so if no one has anything else, there's one thing I want to bring up. Is everyone else fine?
Yep, we're fine.
Okay.
We're good.
I've been thinking a lot about, the pandemic and how there's just so many people in like the assisted living centers and unassisted living centers who are so isolated, and depression is really setting in for a lot of folks. It got me thinking about, what about like a wellness check? Like, is there something that we can initiate to sort of have like wellness checks and phone calls, volunteers calling just to chat and say hello and, sort of keep somebody company for a few minutes, like that sort of thing. I thought about reaching out to the MOD about it, see what they might think. But I wanted to bring it up now because I'm going to be bringing it up again next month. And I want to just sort of throw it out, get people to sort of think about it a little bit and see what y'all might.
It might be worth also reaching out to the Council on Aging. I'm not sure about here in Newburyport, but my mom lives in Melrose, and she's not elderly, but she's 73, and she laughed because she got a phone call and she lives alone, and she said, somebody called me to ask me if I was okay and I needed anything, and she was a little bit horrified, but she also thought it was funny. And I think it was through the council or the senior center locally where she is. So
I would second that. I think that's a great starting place. The person that works at the senior center, who is the Council on Aging, she would probably have a lot of ideas of what might already be in place. There's also the Greater Newburyport Village. Have you heard of that? It's the Village movement is a group of volunteers that basically pay it forward, and then when they need services at some future year, there's more volunteers to help them. And it's called, I think it's called Greater Newburyport Villages, or Villages of Greater Newburyport. It's for all the surrounding towns and Newburyport. It's quite successful.
Okay.
I would also wonder maybe if the Board of Health might have some insight to share. If they do, I think it would probably largely be tied into the senior center, but they might have some feedback.
Right. Okay. And there's somebody new at the senior center now that took over for Roseanne Roblard. I've been meaning to reach out to her anyway and sort of welcome. And
where did Roseanne go?
She retired.
Oh.
Yeah. She was there for something like that. So Paula Burke, I believe is the woman's name who took over, I think. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw it out there so we can all think about it, and I'll see what I come up with between now and next month and who I talk to and find out more. So yeah, okay.
I'll find the link for the Villages organization for you and send it to you.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you. Okay. Well, it's 6:02, so I went over my 2 minutes, but that's fine. I think we did pretty good. We covered a lot of stuff. This is a good meeting.
Great.
I'm going to motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
That we adjourn.
Oh, I'll second it.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay. We will see everyone in March 11th. Same time, same channel.
Even the same day of the month.
Bye-bye,
same
everybody.
Day of the month.
Right.
Bye.